Good evening, everyone, and welcome to SocialFlight Live. I'm Jeff Simon. We have an amazing show for you this evening. Justin Pane, director of NASA's Multi-Mission Operations Center, is here, and we are going to hear his amazing personal story, go behind the scenes at NASA, and learn about some of their most fascinating projects and programs going on right now. Before we get started, just a few things. We've just gotten back from AirVenture. We talked about that a little bit in our last show, and it was really truly spectacular. And again, I want to thank everyone that I had the privilege of meeting in person, anyone who was able to get prizes from us or so many other things. But the fact that AirVenture is over does not mean that anything else stops, because everything is booming inside SocialFlight. And so I would encourage you to please check out SocialFlight.com and the free SocialFlight mobile apps for Apple and Android devices. We have tens of thousands of aviation events and destinations. We have our FAA Learning Center where you can go and take courses for wings credit. If you're a mechanic or if you just want to learn about that, we've got tons of courses that are certified by the FAA where you get IA renewal credit if you have an inspection authorization. You can do your recurring education there. There's just so many different things. The Aviation Maintenance Technician Awards Program, it's all in SocialFlight, and it really helps all of us when we all participate in that community. It's just wonderful. And in addition to that, we have our Fly to Win Challenge. The Fly to Win Challenge is where you can take the mobile app on your phone and just check in at any airport, even your home airport. And if you even check in once, you're entered in to win whatever we're doing during that prize period. And we just gave away now, and we'll be announcing the winner shortly, an Aspen E5 electronic flight instrument, glass for your panel. So these are not small prizes. Just gave that away as far as October 1st, and then we are now, as of October 1st, sorry, that was August 1st, October 1st, we're giving away a Lightspeed Delta Zulu headset. That's their premium headset with Canary carbon monoxide detection and the hearing acuity customized audio. It is just a wonderful headset. And again, all you need to do is get that app, check in, you're entered in to win. If you get on our leaderboard with some of the top numbers of points, well, then you get an extra entry. That helps you out as well. Tonight's broadcast is brought to us by Tempest Aero. All of their products are made in America, just like Rosie the Riveter that you see on their ads, and they have the most fantastic oil filters, spark plugs, air filters, and now fuel pumps as well. As a mechanic, I exclusively use their products, and I always have. And so I really do recommend that, and they help, of course, keep the lights on and make a program like this possible. Now on to tonight's guest. Justin Pane serves as director of NASA's Multi-Mission Control in Silicon Valley, California at the Ames Research Center. His organization, the Multi-Missions Operations Center, or MMOC, has a deep history of flying spacecraft and currently operates 5 missions. I met Justin earlier this year and was absolutely blown away with his personal story and accomplishments. Justin joined NASA in 2003 after graduating from a year-long teenage intervention program in Oregon, redirecting his life and obtaining an MIS degree from Florida International University. During Justin's 2-decade tenure at NASA, he has worked on the Space Shuttle program, the International Space Station program, the Kepler Mission, SOFIA 747 SP aircraft observatory, the joint U.S.-Russian biological satellites, the Viper moon rover, and many others. His life and career trend have been truly impressive, and he was recently awarded NASA's Outstanding Leadership Medal for significant flight control career advancements. And his aviation story just keeps it even more interesting the deeper and deeper that you dig, because it turns out that Justin and his wife Elizabeth, who also works at NASA, got married in a helicopter snowboard wedding above Queenstown, New Zealand, and we're going to ask him about that one as well. And my guess is we'll only have time to scratch the surface of so many parts of this amazing life. So buckle up, let's get started. Please welcome to SocialFlight Live, Justin Pane. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here, Jeff. Welcome to NASA's Mission Control in Silicon Valley.
How cool is that? I have to tell
I
you.
know, I love saying that.
Say it again. All right, let's go. Give the intro.
Welcome to NASA's Mission Control in Silicon Valley.
I think I'm gonna make that like something on my phone or like a meme or my ringtone. I like that. It's awfully cool.
Perfect.
Um, let's go back because before we dive into all the science, all the amazing things going on at NASA, um, I do want to start with your beginning of what got you there because the first time you told me this, we were talking about your accomplishments, about NASA, about technology, and you sort of just humbly slipped this thing in about, oh, by the way, you know, I had a kind of interesting childhood and story about what brought me here. And I was like, hold on, uh, stop, let's go there. And I want you to do that for our audience here.
Sure, it'd be my pleasure. Yeah, so I was born and raised in Miami, Florida. Um, and fast forward to my teen years, I got in trouble with the law. I was headed down the wrong path, and I found myself one day in a courtroom after many court appearances with an ultimatum. The judge, and this was to my surprise, the judge said, "Son, you have two choices tonight. You can either be at the mercy of the Miami-Dade County court system, and I will sentence you accordingly, or you can take an intervention program that starts with a 3-week boot camp, wilderness boot camp, mind you, in Idaho, just outside Shoshone, followed by a 1-year long live-in intensive intervention program in Bend, Oregon." And I turned around, I saw my parents in the courtroom, my girlfriend at the time in the courtroom, other friends, other people. It was a lot of folks in the courtroom. And I knew there then and there what the right decision was, surprisingly, I must say. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take the intervention program. I feel like there's a greater purpose in my life than what I've been doing. And so that night I was on a airplane with a chaperone to Idaho in my court clothes.
Wow. And how did this come about in terms of this opportunity for you? Because most that doesn't seem like the most typical scenario in a courtroom, like everyone getting that second chance.
No, it's not, and I wish other teens had this opportunity. It's like the go kill a lion, right? Back in the good old days, back in the day. It was where I got the opportunity to become a man in a way, or become a grown up. And not every teen gets this opportunity. And what I found out later, after many years, was that my parents had, and some of family members had written the judge for this specific court appearance and said, look, he's keeping his grades up. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He's smart. He's just going down the wrong path. Can you please offer an alternative option for him? We'll help fund it. There's also sponsorship programs we can look into. And they worked it out. And they essentially saved my life, is how I look at it.
Wow. What was what was that experience like going through that intensive program and then going through the longer part of that?
Well, right away, I knew I was in the right place. I hadn't had a lot of experience in nature or with mentors formally, at least at that point in my life. This was 30 years ago. And immediately found solace in nature. I found meaning and purpose. I was cooking my own dinner off the land for those 3 weeks. We were hiking 15 miles a day with 40, 50-pound backpacks as a peer group with trained staff that not only knew their way around the wilderness in Idaho, but also how to guide youth towards doing good in life, finding purpose and meaning, strategically thinking. And I loved it. I loved it. It was amazing. And I still, to this day, 30 some years later, find solace in the woods in different ways through mountain biking, hiking, bringing my children out in nature. And I also, Jeff, have found mentors throughout the last 30 years intentionally since graduating those two programs successfully, getting off probation, even with my current mentor now, Kjell Lindgren. I got to give him credit because he's helping me work on telling the story. He's the leadership. He's one of the leaders in NASA Johnson Space Center Flight Operations Directorate. They oversee the astronaut office, mission control center there, and other activities around human spaceflight. It's just really important to me to continue to have mentors throughout my life.
Yeah. Um, Tell me a little bit about what that you mentioned that there was an intensive program, but then there was also another transition. What was the key for you to making this a permanent change in your life, and not just a kind of one-time experience that had a big impact, but maybe gave you a chance to relapse into that?
There was purpose. I found purpose, and I found that being good, doing good to society, doing good to others, vice the alternative, it felt better. I slept better.
Mm,
I had a smile on my face. I wasn't mad. I didn't want to harm people. I wanted to help people. It became a change in mindset, and then became oh, okay, what's the next step, right? We want to
mhm.
go on, maybe graduate from college, start with a community college degree, then go and get a bachelor's degree. I took the long road to NASA. It wasn't a straight line to this job. And I think in many ways that can be relatable for people, not just in NASA, but outside of NASA.
Yeah,
It's not too far off, right? The sky is not the limit.
that's really amazing to me, and I think it there's some message and some lesson, of course, in this and in your career, because obviously we're going to begin talking about your whole career and everything happening there. But I really wanted to pause on this because there are likely people in our audience or watching this later on that if either are struggling themselves and questioning what whether they've reached a low point that they can't recover from in their life for any possible reason whatsoever, and or that know people or are related to people that are in that. And I'm curious what your kind of message is, having been through that, to them, what they should think for themselves, or what kind of message they should send to others about what a remarkable path you took, and how things aren't over no matter how bad they are.
It's okay to feel like this. It's actually where a lot of learning happens. When you're in it, you're in the tough times, you're developing your story, but it's not permanent.
Mm,
And that to me is key. The first thing I learned during those intervention programs was this isn't permanent, but be in it. The feelings are real. Use those feelings, but then have a different outlook. Keep going step by step, hike by hike. You related it to the wilderness therapy. Just keep going. And then, of course, find mentors, people that you can open up about what you're really going through without repercussion.
mm,
And then find an avenue like nature, which turns into exploring, which then opens your mind up to maybe I want to be a pilot. I want to be an astronaut. I want to just work for NASA. I want to X, Y, or Z, right?
yeah.
It's
You
okay. And those stories matter. I found that the story that I have has given me the ability to relate with people at another level because I've gone through something very challenging in the past. And if you don't sit in that when you're in the challenge, you won't maybe be able to articulate it as well or be able to really harken back on those feelings. And I do often. It's helpful.
mm, you said something uh, very powerful that impacted me, and that is that you're writing your story. I think human nature for anyone. I mean, there are pilots I've known that have lost their medicals and are struggling through that. There are people who have had loss in their life. There's all sorts of different things that can do that.
Mhm.
But the I think human nature seems to have people think when times get hard that they're at the end of their story. And that idea that you're writing it right now, like this is an important chapter, not the end, is pretty powerful.
I firmly believe that. And I actually put myself in those positions to this day, but in a different manner. So I'll go on an extremely long bike ride, for example, and challenge myself, put myself in uncomfortable positions. And on the other end of that bike ride or that hike or that adventure, I'll learn something new about myself every time.
Wow. So tell me a little bit about how, after you are uh, getting your life back together on an upswing, there seems to be a remarkable uh, leap, right? To go from that to joining NASA. I mean, the security clearance, things like that.
Mhm.
You would be a success in anyone's mind if we were talking to you right now about this entire story, and at the end of it, you were, managing a retail store. It doesn't matter, and yet you made it into something that one might think would be impossible. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, thanks for that compliment. It means a lot to me that you see me that way. Well, when I graduated with my bachelor's degree in MIS from Florida International University, NASA headquarters was hiring from my school. And so I put an application in at the booth thinking not much of it. Like you, I had that idea, like I'm not really worthy of being at NASA. I don't even know if I can get a secret clearance or even top secret for that matter. But why not? Just throw an application in. And I went through a couple other job offers, took a job actually. And when NASA came back and said, we have an offer for you, it's an entry level job. It's in the business side of the house. It's negotiating contracts. It's in a field called procurement. I knew nothing about what procurement was, by the way. I sat down with my family that night and I said, I don't think I'm going to take it. I really like being in Florida. I've made a life here. I have a partner at the time. And my dad, I remember sitting down and he was like, son, I really think you should reconsider that. Because I had to move from Miami to take a job at NASA. The 10 field centers, there's none in NASA. The closest one is up in the Cape, near Cocoa Beach. And long story short, I ended up rescinding the other offer, taking the NASA job, and choosing to come out to Ames Research Center first out here in California. So when I accepted it, I leaned into it and said, if I'm going to go, I'm going to move far away. Let's try out this California thing. And so I did. I took that job offer and got my feet wet here at Ames. And I've been around to a few other centers we can talk about if you'd like, and then ended up coming back because I really love the center's culture and the environment around Ames in Silicon Valley. There's just a lot to do with what I like outside of work.
You told me a small tidbit about being rejected the same day as your acceptance. You want to tell me that?
I don't remember. I'm sorry. Can you
Oh,
refresh?
I thought there was a job or something that you had told me, that something about a job that you had didn't either didn't get, or was at the same time as all of a sudden you're joining NASA. But that's fine. Tell me a little bit about the how did you get through the process of being able to essentially move past any marks that you had to worry about, any about your past?
A great question. So again, another mentor stepped into my life. Her name's Yolande Harden, and she was the hiring manager for the group that was hired at a college. It was a cohort, even similar in a way to what I went through in the programs prior. Is really fascinating. But she was running that program, and I just was upfront with her. I said, "Look, I want to take this job, but I have a background," and I explained to her the details of it. And she said, I've been through this before personally, but also professionally, and you'll be fine. She's like, but the key here is when you get interviewed for your secret clearance to start out, and then if you end up getting a top secret SCI clearance like I currently have down the road, the key is just being truthful. Just be honest. And you didn't do anything that's so bad that you wouldn't get it. And that really made me feel so comfortable. It helped tremendously in my confidence early on that I could really lean into NASA and take the job seriously, knowing that I could stick around. And a mentor she helped and she really got me going. And it proved true. She was absolutely right. I told the truth and what I did when asked the questions. And you know what? I'm sitting here with a TSSCI clearance working on some pretty awesome work.
That's amazing. Well, let's get into that work some. I'm going to show everyone a little bit about what it looks like for you with a day at the office. And this is, here's the hero shot. I like this. Uh, what are we looking at?
Well, right now I can't see what you have up. Let me
Oh,
see if I can make my screen bigger. Oh, there we go. Okay, I can see it now. Just had to expand. Right, so we're in the primary mission control center room. There's multiple rooms, as you can imagine. This particular event was called the Viper Lunar Rover Vehicle Operational Readiness Test. And what we are doing here is connected from mission control here in Silicon Valley to where the actual rover, the flight vehicle that's going to go to the moon, is, and that's in Houston, actually. So we are commanding and controlling it, putting it through its paces remotely from Silicon Valley. And this is another photo you have here of some of the screens during an operation like that. So we're
that's
proving out that the
that
rover
looks
can
pretty cool.
drive, even though
Who
it's not yet on the moon.
who on the planet would not want this to be like their office? That's You pinch yourself when you look at something like this.
I don't have a lot of time to do that, but I think talking about it when we now with you here, yes, it does feel like a dream come true. It really does.
So let's talk about those missions, and I'm actually going to go back to the first one here, and and bring that back up. Uh,
Okay.
so let's talk Viper. I think there's quite a few people that haven't heard of this.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a NASA program called Artemis. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yes,
Maybe
I
your
think, I'm
audience
pretty sure
has.
everybody's heard of
Okay.
Artemis. Yep.
Okay. So let's baseline. Okay. So Artemis. This is the Artemis lunar rover. So it's a
Oh, okay.
scout.
So
So
Viper is
it is
part of
a
the Artemis
scout.
program and is the actual rover.
Correct.
Got it.
Yes. So it is one of the first, if not the first, depending when we land there, to get to the moon, start scouting out the moon for the Artemis program prior to getting the first woman, first person of color to land on the moon in the next
Wow.
couple of years is the shot, right? So we'll
And
be
what's the
landing
size?
this.
What are we looking at? What's the size of this unit?
This rover is 5 foot by 5 foot by 8 tall.
Okay.
It weighs about 1,000 pounds. And essentially, we'll be scouting for water, of course, in the South Pole of the moon, where we think there's the most water in permanently shadowed craters. We'll study soil composition and also create maps to help the future missions coming after us for Artemis and beyond.
Is Artemis in any way an international effort, or is it all a United States effort?
Yes, there's the Artemis Accords that are being signed. I forget how many countries at this point have signed it, but many have at this point.
And what are we looking with this view?
This is a test vehicle in a rover scape at Glenn Research Center. We have one similar here at Ames Research Center where we test driving the rover and working the 4 payloads that are on board. We have 3 spectrometers, sensors essentially, and one 1 meter drill in the belly of it. So we
Wow.
practice driving it in preparation for being on the moon.
You know, one of the things that's come up over and over again as we have had astronauts or other NASA folks on is how simulation based life is there at NASA. That you simulate, or, most of your life is simulating, and to make sure that the real mission goes right. Tell me more about that and how that commands your life there.
Yeah, simulations are a huge part of it. In fact, for Viper, it's incredibly important because we'll be running from the shadow of the moon. And if we get caught too long in a permanently shadowed area, the rover will die or an early mission. So to be able to have not just the team aspect in play, and mind you, there's up to hundreds of people that work in the operations team just on Viper, not just here at the control center at Ames, but at Johnson, at Kennedy, so Florida and Texas, and then at external partners. So having everyone work together as a team is important. The communication, what is communicated when, because you don't want everyone talking over each other when time is of the essence. This rover will be driven mostly by humans on the Earth.
Mm.
So practicing all these elements and being efficient and time sensitive is critical for this mission in particular. So we simulate a lot.
Wow. So if I understand correctly, even at this stage, you're simulating from your location at Ames Research Center, and the actual rover's at a different location, and you're you're trying to simulate like this is the delay that's going to exist. This is all these other things um, as they develop the rover itself.
Right, and most of the simulations are actually virtual. They're software based.
Oh, really?
They're
It's
not
not
they're
even
not
with.
often with the hardware. It is occasionally, but not often. So we have
Is that
sim supervisor position who creates simulation events, creates anomalies, and puts the team through the paces. And then there's a software suite, as you can imagine, that can simulate everything that we're going to be doing because we're doing it remotely from the Earth. In fact, this will probably still be, depending on when we get to the moon, NASA's first robotically driven lunar rover. To date, the lunar rovers, moon rovers, have been driven by those from the Apollo era on the moon by humans.
mm. Is it
So
only driven remotely, or is it also controlled, or will it also be controlled from astronauts on the moon?
no, this will be all from my mission control center.
Wow. And tell me a little bit. You had said running from the
The shadow of the
the
moon, where we'll
shadow
be
of the.
landing is so far down. The angle of the sun is so low that, and we have solar. It's solar powered, so you can only store so much power, and we're gonna be going. Max speed is a half a mile an hour, by the way. But we'll be
Oh,
going
really?
12 days is the plan. 12 miles, sorry, about 100 days is the minimum planned mission timeline. But we'll be doing it 24/7.
Wow. And what are the things that it's meant to do in terms of, you mentioned water. Like tell me about its what kind of equipment's going to be on board, and how much has kind of already been figured out.
Figured out. So we have the four payloads. We have the drill. So when the drill gets activated, there'll be sensors that are underneath or on front of the rover that will be able to tell a variety of elements of the water that it will likely find. We know that there's frozen water there. It'll also study the soil composition too by taking sensors and sending that data back to our mission control center scientists. And then it'll also plot maps with the cameras up front that it uses to triangulate and drive. So those are the three main um, aspects of this rover.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And what's the most challenging aspect of this? I mean, obviously, you can go back to the, as you mentioned, the Apollo era,
Mm-hmm.
when I think the public's perception, at least mine, um, when you go back in time, right? You listen to them, driving around like a dune buggy, and like like it's easy in a way when you see video of what they did back then, and now here we are remote. And so what are the challenges? Is it all based on where it is and what you're really trying to accomplish?
Yeah, the topography will be a large challenge for one, because the moon mapping isn't like we have in Google Maps. It's not the fidelity we're used to here on Earth. So we're going to have to use our cameras, but also some of the imagery we've received from satellites over the years to make the best we can of it. And what our software has done is created a stoplight mapping, essentially, where there's green, we know it's good to go to drive. Yellow is let's be a little more cautious, and red is like you better be real careful. If not, just avoid the area. So making sure we don't get stuck
Mm.
is a big challenge, and practicing not just egressing or coming off of the landing vehicle and starting the mission, but also where we go. If we go inside of a permanently shadowed crater, um, having a plan to get out so the mission
Yeah.
doesn't prematurely. But
Will
also
this?
going back to team. Oh, go ahead.
No, no. Go ahead. Also
And I
going
was
back.
just going to add a second challenge, and that's I alluded to it earlier, is the communications and teamwork. Since there's so
Mm,
many cooks in the kitchen, that is the largest human challenge as I see it.
mm.
So
Will
vehicle
this be?
challenge, human challenge.
Will this be concurrent with astronauts on the moon or separate mission?
It's not planned to at this point. Um,
So it's a stepping stone in that direction.
correct. Yeah.
Excellent.
It's
Well,
a
it's very,
scout.
very cool. Have you seen the test vehicle yourself?
Yes, I've been to, yep, I've seen it
And is the
before.
simulation when you're not doing a complete simulation, but you're actually controlling something somewhere, even if it's just a test piece of real hardware? Is there something a little more exciting about that?
It is, absolutely. We had a video of the vehicle, the rover in Houston. So we could see the wheels moving. It was stagnant, so it was on like a perch in a clean room. And you could see the wheels moving. They all can work independently. And then there's the drill. You could see it go down, the lights come on. So you could it we were actually driving the official road. It was really cool. And that was a fairly recent event. That was about 3 months ago. We led up to that point, many years to get to that point.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah,
I
it
want to
was.
move to the next program because there's a bunch of programs, obviously, that you're involved with that we mentioned, and
Sure.
and that's this one right here.
Yeah, that's the interface region imaging spectrograph. Say that a few times.
How about we just say Iris because I'm not going to try
There
to
you
say
go. That's
that.
right. Yeah, that's Iris for short. And she's been flying since 2013 in our Mission Control Center. And
Wow,
that's a
12 plus years.
continues. Yes, I know. Continues to get mission extensions every 2 years. That's how
And
good the science data has been.
what does Iris do?
Yeah, Iris is it has a telescope on board and a spectrograph on board as well. So the telescope is designed to capture high resolution images. So we get actual images and we publish them a couple days later to the public. The
Wow,
spectrograph,
that quickly.
then, yeah, very quick. We produce science to the public for this mission. And the spectrograph takes those images and analyzes the material, like the solar flares, things of that nature, and how energy moves. And then scientists eventually they look at it and say, okay, these certain elements could have, say, a weather impact on the Earth, and it just goes from there.
So when we start hearing things about when there's going to be enhanced solar activity or concerns about electronics or things that will affect the northern lights or any of these, it's contributed to by this Iris mission that you're managing.
That's correct. Yep.
That's
And it has
that's
been for over a decade, which is incredible. Fun fact about this mission, and yeah, that's one of the solar flare images we've taken, that it was launched aboard a Lockheed 1011 Stargazer aircraft, right? It wasn't a traditional launch, like on a rocket. And it was dropped off the belly on a Pegasus XL, and then it goes off and gets into the orbit. Take a Google it sometime. It's a phenomenal launch to observe.
I'm definitely going to do that. Yeah, you don't hear about the rocket launches off the belly of a Lockheed L-1011.
Pretty awesome. Yeah, and that one's
That's
about 7 foot by 12, just to give you frame of reference.
uh-huh.
And it's mid-size, about 400 pounds it was or is.
That's very cool. I love that. All right. Well, let's talk about this one right here.
Starling, not to be confused with Starlink, the
No,
SpaceX
totally
project,
different.
of course.
Yeah, you're not
However,
going.
we're working together on it, actually. Starling and Starlink are working together. And we're currently working on a space traffic coordination system, just like air traffic control, but for space. Um,
Wow. So
doing
that
a
the,
dim.
the that seems to be groundbreaking because we only think, at least in the unwashed masses of the public that I reside, um, we only think of this as, the idea of it's with all the satellites that are up there, it's sort of like the Wild West. You have to worry about space junk. You have to worry about this. Everyone's doing whatever. And you're working to coordinate traffic control.
That's part of the mission. Yeah, and it's in conjunction with Starlink. So they work.
Wow.
It's a great public-private partnership for this mission, demoing collision avoidance techniques and autonomy, cross-link networking. There's a variety of different demos that we're put. This is a demo mission, so it's putting
Hmm.
together a lot of demo technologies to use.
Yeah, like a
Um,
proof of concept. Like, can we coordinate, traffic control? Can we coordinate all these types of, things that you're talking about? How long? When was this mission launched, and how, and what's its status?
it was launched on a Rocket Lab Electron from New Zealand
Hmm.
in 2023. So it's been up for a few years. Um, and it's, as you can see in the photo you have up, it's 4 6U CubeSats. That's a size. So it's testing swarm technologies, just like Starlink is hundreds of swarm. This is a set of 4.
Wow. And you mentioned, Rocket Lab. I think people don't necessarily realize, that when we think of private versus public in space launches, we think of public as, NASA, or Euro, or the one in Europe, and yet it's not just SpaceX that's launching things. There's other companies that are launching rockets, right?
Right. It's becoming more and more. We're really happy to see it. So NASA, we can focus on more deep space activities like Artemis program, Moon and Mars.
Does that allow for a little more market forces as well, when you don't rely just on SpaceX, but you can choose to also look at Rocket Lab, or other companies that are doing private, uh, space launches?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big fan of competition, just in anything. And my racing bikes, back to my example as I had earlier, right? It just makes you better when you have competition around you.
Absolutely. That it's pretty cool stuff when you think about that. And I think I was reading at one point in time, that it just comes down to, dollars. This is what it costs if you want to put this into space,
Mhm.
and, this size or this weight, and which is kind of crazy when you think about it in terms of similar to buying a ticket.
And this swarm technology, the smaller sats flying up as one but multiple, that's saving costs, the launch costs. So it's bringing costs for said payload down significantly than having to launch a much larger single piece.
Because they sort of go up as one and then separate in a way.
Yeah, they fly as one, but just as a swarm. So all
Wow.
individual pieces communicate together instead of one piece of hardware. It's multiple. So if one goes down, you can more cost effectively send up a replacement for that
That
piece.
is that is very, very cool. All right, well, let's go to the next one that you've got here. This one, if I understand, correctly, is, well. Why don't you tell me so I don't get it wrong?
Yeah, this one
Bio.
is BioSentinel. And this one was launched aboard Artemis 1 as a secondary payload.
Hmm.
So you're familiar with Artemis 1. It was
Yeah.
a test of the Orion capsule, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that launch was in November, I think 16th, 2022 from the Cape in Florida. And there was 10 CubeSats launched as secondary payloads, the primary payload being Artemis capsule. So they let us come on for the ride.
Hey, as
After
long as
launch,
you're going. Is
right?
that fairly typical when you've got a major program, that there's all this, well, we happen to have some extra space
Yeah,
along the way?
they always fill it. Yeah, might as
That's
well.
cool.
You're spending the amount of fuel and cost to get the rocket into orbit. You might as well fill up the volume.
Yeah. So what does this do?
So yeah, well, let me first say something that's really fun, for us at least, is that there was some delays in Artemis 1 launch. After launch, all 10 secondary payloads, these 10 CubeSats, were deployed. We were one of only 4 of the 10 to communicate back to Earth. Cool for us, not cool for the other 6, right? Um, and we are currently the last one to still be operational.
What do you what's the
So,
reason that you lose so many in terms of the success, something properly deploying?
I haven't been, I don't know what the failure review boards for those spacecraft, they were different countries even. There was, I know a Japanese was going to land on the moon, JAXA. I don't know
It's
why
just
those
such
did.
a harsh environment to
It's
go
just
through on.
harsh. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, and when you're delayed a while, it adds risk to your comms. Um, but anyway, for us, there was we had yeast on board and a radiation sensor. Okay, the yeast, since the delay, actually died. Yeast are really rugged. So to give you a sense, they didn't make it.
Mm,
However, we keep getting mission extensions because the onboard radiation detector continues to collect phenomenal data. And
wow.
mind you, we are over 70 million kilometers away from Earth right now, still communicating with this small 6U CubeSat.
Wow, that's crazy. Do you think that
Mhm.
I think we've sort of gotten used to um, expecting overachievement in many ways. You look at Opportunity Rover, or you look at some of these other things, and do you get that sense that going back now to the Viper and the rover that you're sort of setting it like almost sandbagging, like no, 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 we're only going to be doing 2 weeks here, and everyone's like, yeah, this thing's still going to be going 6 months from now. Is How do you manage that perception?
Yeah, and the tours I give at the control center here, two things. One, I still get in awe of our team when we're communicating with a small satellite that's 70 million kilometers away from us right now. Like I still get the hair on my neck still stands up sometimes when I say that in a tour, right? But the sense I get, you're right, is that a lot of folks coming here expect NASA to do the impossible. And honestly, I kind of like it. It's pretty motivating because you don't want to fail, right? Any failure is likely going to make the news. And while that adds stress to our job, it makes it exciting too, because you want to be at the forefront of the technology. You want to be ahead of things, not reacting. And you want to work together. It's all teamwork. You have to work together on this. It's never one or two people. It's always multiple partners within NASA or outside of NASA. And it just creates a very fertile environment for growth, not just
That's awesome.
professionally, but personally.
You literally get to work in an environment where, yes, you guys are rocket scientists. So, like, you never get to say it's not rocket science about what you're doing, and you get to work around some of the most accomplished people on the planet. That must be extraordinarily rewarding.
It is, and it is even me personally, as we talked a little bit about my story earlier, it is never lost on me, Jeff, that I get to be here. Where
Wow.
I came from to where I am now is every day I think of that. And going back to the original point is having gone through something like that, and many people have, maybe listeners here, it makes the other end of it that much more rewarding.
Mm,
It really does.
that makes a lot of sense. Well, I want to go to the next one because this to me is probably one of the coolest things you've ever shared with me that I did not know existed, which maybe I'm embarrassed to say I didn't know it existed, but maybe a lot of people don't. What are we looking at on this?
Okay, so you're in the International Space Station right now, looking at 3 Astro Bees. And
Astro
those are,
bees. Just to be really
yeah,
clear, people are hearing it that way. All right, Astro bees.
isn't that a cool name? They are named, though, Honey, Queen, and Bumble. Those 3 Astro Bees. Those wondering. And their size is about 12.5 inches square cube, about
And
13 pounds.
and what do they do?
So they're basically an astronaut assistant. They take inventory, they can move cargo, they can perch, they can do documentation for the astronauts, things
They're little
like that.
robots.
They're little robots. And they drive around both autonomously or commanded from the ground, whether it's in my control center or remote. Some people command them from their home, believe it or not, by electronic fans for propulsion on board. So they kind of just fly around and use their cameras and sensors for navigation and even for experiments. Sometimes we attach things to them. For example, we attached this arm called Reach to one of the Astrobees, and we were doing autonomous command and capture. For example, we would maybe one day have them outside into space and grappling with a spacecraft that needed to be repaired, or grabbing some orbital debris, or fixing something outside the space station in a long-term goal.
So you literally are like, hey, move honey over to this other module, and it just goes from the
Yeah,
ground.
it's a phenomenal experiment. It's had a long history. Spheres was the predecessor to that. Um, and just think about being on the space station for a second. Let's just take a time out. They are flying at 17,500 or 200 miles an hour all day. They see 16 sunsets, one every 90 minutes. I mean, I can't believe we're doing this, right? And we've been doing this for, darn near 30 years. So, yeah,
Yeah, and
it's amazing.
again, I had no idea that you had essentially autonomous and or remote controlled helpers that were up there buzzing around doing things. That's news to me, and it's pretty damn cool.
I agree.
Does is that of all the things that people get to command um, and send things to, is that maybe the most fun one?
I mean, you take your pick. I think everyone has a different view on what's the coolest. There's not really a resounding favorite. I mean, if you're going to drive NASA's first robotic lunar rover is pretty darn cool too, or flying a mission that continues to give us incredible science about the sun or deep space radiation. I mean, it's like, how do you pick a favorite? It's like picking a
Yeah.
favorite child. It's impossible.
It makes sense. So there's one other one that isn't one that you are obviously commanding right now, but you mentioned it once, and it has a very personal connection for you, and that's this guy right here.
Oh yeah. That's the Kepler Space Telescope. And this one, um, yeah, has a very personal connection. I met my wife on this program many, many years ago, and we are the first Kepler couple
I like
around
that. You
NASA.
know you're
They're
working hard when it's called when a couple shows up as part of that.
right. Yeah, and it launched in 2009, and it flew all the way to 2018, actually. So it was a long-standing mission. My mission control center here performed the science data uh, pipeline for Kepler, and Kepler rewrote the textbooks, really. Um, it found that there's likely more planets than stars in our Milky Way, for one.
Really?
Huge. They discovered over 2,600 exoplanets, and many of which were potentially rocky, meaning like Earth, right? Not just gas or something,
Yeah. Yeah.
within its own star's habitable zone, meaning water could exist, meaning there could be life.
Wow. That's
Scientists
pretty
are
well.
still plowing through the data, and it's setting the stage for many other missions of its kind that's going to dig deeper into some of these findings to try to confirm or deny the assumptions that we were making on Kepler.
Wow. What's it? Tell me a little bit about what it's like emotionally to go through and be part of these multi-year programs that have a an inception and a hope phase and a reality and an accomplishment, and then eventually you have to say goodbye to. That seems like a very powerful experience that would not surprise me that you wind up with Kepler couples from.
Yeah, it's such a long-standing mission. But I believe most of us that work on missions like this, particularly those that launched and are successful, look back on them as just an incredible life experience. Now, the ones that don't make it to launch, let's say we worked on a proposal phase and they just didn't quite get there for whatever reason, those can be hard to swallow. Sometimes there's political decisions made, but at the end of the day, we understand the game and we salute and say we're going to do the best with what we are tasked to accomplish.
Mhm.
And it's just how it goes. We propose more than we're going to get, and some don't even get to launch. But I tell you, working where I am now in launch operations is the pinnacle to me. It really is. To be there when the people are so excited to see launch, and then we end up taking over on orbit and letting them do what they worked years for to accomplish for the country and for the world.
That's so cool. Very, very cool. And I almost missed one of the missions, and I want to make sure I go back to that because I think that's another fascinating one, and that's this guy right here.
Yeah, SOFIA, Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy. We love our acronyms, by the way, if you can't tell.
I sort of noticed that.
So yeah, this mission we also performed science data processing for, and it flew 732 science flights from 2010 to 2022 on a Boeing, I think you can see it on the tail, but 747 SP. It was
Wow.
modified with an 8-foot infrared telescope in the aft left fuselage that would open during
With a
flight.
big door open.
Yeah, pretty amazing. And it flew at about 45K, so high out above the infrared blocking atmosphere, or most of it at least. So it allowed
So
for
you're,
observations that we couldn't get from the Earth.
so you're at 45,000 feet, and the pilots have to say, "Okay, time to open the door."
Yeah. Yeah, you're strapped in pretty good when you're in the plane.
Wow, wow. And again, what type of data did they get from this?
So it detected water molecules on the moon, actually. Um,
Wow.
it found evidence of the universe early chemistry. I mean, it went deep. It observed Pluto's atmosphere. I mean, there was a lot
Hmm.
of findings, and they're still plowing through the data on this as well, even though it's done flying. If you're ever in Arizona in Tucson, stop by the Pima Air and Space Museum, and you'll see SOFIA on display right
Oh,
now.
really? So people can go see it
Fascinating
there.
aircraft. Yeah. Hmm.
Pima Air and Space Museum. You can go see that absolutely. And then um, we got one question which I wanted to make sure people were asking how the Astrobees make it around because you think of space as a vacuum, but obviously inside the ISS people have to breathe. So can you explain that a little bit better?
How do they get around? Meaning, how do they fly around?
Yeah.
Yeah, electronic fans are on board each of those, and so they're fans, and
So you have
they
so
fly.
you have the benefit of both worlds. You've got zero G on one hand or to it, and then on the other hand, you've still got an atmosphere
Right.
that they can use
Yeah. So it
fans in.
doesn't need a lot of propulsion, really. It just needs fans to drive around,
The, the tiniest
turn.
little.
Exactly.
Do
Yeah.
the astronauts love having those around?
They love them. You can see the smile on their face. Yeah, it's a really a hit, and it has been for many years.
That's really cool. And then this last one, I did show this briefly, but if you could just let us know again what we're really looking at in this.
Right. So if you remember the two astronauts that were recently flew up on the Starline, they were stuck in space. You remember,
Yeah.
like the headline. So this is Suni Williams, one of those two, and this was a Astrobee experiment with the reach tentacles on it that we were commanding from the MMOC just before she came back to Earth. So this is a photo from, what was that, maybe a handful of months ago now? I'm losing track of time, but
Yeah.
she just look at her. I mean, she loves working with Astro Bee, and as long as they stayed in space, that they didn't mean to, um, they were as professional as the first day they got back up there. It was really a pleasure to work with them till the day they left, came back home safely.
Wow. I absolutely love that. So, as we get to the end of this, I do want to touch on the little aviation tidbit that you gave me from your personal story. Because we started with your personal story, I want to kind of end there. And you and Elizabeth had a very, very unique wedding. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, we did, and it's still the best day of our lives. So we were planning a traditional wedding, and Elizabeth said, I'm getting a little bit unmotivated by the juggernaut that traditional weddings are. Why don't we just, and she said it kind of sleight of hand, why don't we just do our honeymoon for our wedding instead? And our honeymoon plans were to go to New Zealand and Australia, take 5 weeks, start in the South Island of New Zealand and ski and or snowboard, and then end up in the Great Barrier Reef, the northeast part of Australia in our bathing suits. It was like our ideal honeymoon. I said, "Whoa, really? You would do like what would be the wedding then?" And then it just came from there. Why don't we do a helicopter snowboard wedding? The first week we're there, and I said, "Oh my gosh, okay, like I'm in, but are our parents, are our friends okay with this? We don't want to hurt feelings. We want to be mindful of others." And then we ran it by people in our family and close friends, and everyone said, "You know what? That is you guys. That is you. Go do it. We fully support you." And thankfully they did. The one ask from my mom was, let's just have a reunion or get together after you come back so we can celebrate you in person. And I said, you got it. So sure enough, there we were. We flew down to New Zealand, just above Queenstown, got married on a, was it H-125 helicopter. And those things can land in some pretty interesting places, I found out. So they put us on the top of one of the mountains, got married by celebrant, and then took runs the rest of the day with an action sports photographer and videographer who captured the day in a 3-minute short on YouTube, but also a full length day for the family. And yeah, we ended the trip in our bathing suits in the northeast part of Australia as a happily married couple.
That's awesome. I love that, and I was fortunate enough to see that video and seeing Elizabeth just snowboarding down with a little veil coming out.
Yeah, in her whites, and I was in black, of course.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely. Very, very, very cool.
Thank
Well,
you, Jeff.
Justin, it was such a pleasure to get to meet you and hear your story, and I'm really grateful that you've taken time and been so gracious with your being open about your story to share it with everyone because it's one thing to talk about the science and the missions and NASA and all this other stuff, but the human connection and what you have accomplished is really quite powerful. And I'm grateful that you'll share it.
Well, thanks for offering me to be on your platform. I'm just honored to be here, particularly with all of the phenomenal guests you've had leading up to my show. So my
Uh,
pleasure.
you are very, very welcome and a wonderful fit along with everyone else who is part of that. It is this show is about human inspiration and celebrating the inspirational voices throughout aviation and space, and I can't think of anyone more appropriate than you. So I really do appreciate that. And if you have any last kind of like words for anyone who again knows someone or anything like that, uh, happy to hear them.
Step by step, you'll make it happen. Um, that's about sums it up.
I love that. Absolutely love that. Well, again, thank you so much. I appreciate that, and I hope to see you again very soon.
Thank you, Jeff. Talk to you
All
later.
right. Have a good night. And thanks to all of you for taking time out of your evening to join us here on Social Flight Live. We'll be back next Tuesday evening, August 12th at 8 p.m. Well, that show is going to be our Cockpit to Cowl show with Brian Schiff, and that's going to be very, very cool. It's about evaluating your experts. To sign up for that, go to cockpit, the number 2 and the word cowl, cockpit2cowl.com. And Brian and I are going to talk about how people surround themselves, whether with the experts of their lives, whether that be their flight instructor, the mechanic, anyone else who's part of all this, and how important it is to be able to actually evaluate these folks and do what you need to do to make sure that your team, that your personal team in your life is the best it can be to support your expansion as a person and your personal safety when moving forward. So I really think that's going to be a fascinating show. I'm going to learn a lot from what Brian has learned in his world in the airlines, because that's a big part of what they do. And then we're back here on Social Flight Live on Tuesday, August 19th, and we are here with a special show from Whip Air with Paul Jackson, Chief Pilot for Advanced Flight Training. So if you really want to learn about what goes on in the world of seaplanes, I'll tell you, Paul has more stories than we will ever have time for, and it's crazy stuff, from the fire boss flying their firefighting platform and learning how to fly that, to regular float plane flying, everything, whether it's a Caravan or whether it's a Husky on floats. It's going to be a real fun adventure time for us to meet with Paul Jackson. And so with that, again, I want to say thank you so much for everything you all do and for joining us here on Social Flight Live. Get out there, check out socialflight.com, and be sure to participate in this wonderful general aviation community that we all have. And until next time, I wish you all blue skies.